I'm Karin Hurt, and I'm here with our next edition of Asking for a Friend. My boss is really stressing me out. Am I alone? Do you think leaders are one of the greatest sources of stress in our organization? I'm out here in Breckenridge, Colorado on vacation, and this one's a tough one. So I am phoning a friend. In fact, I'm here with Charles Fred, and he is the author of the 24-Hour Rule and the 2019 chair of ATD and a serial entrepreneur and a real expert in this particular question. So Charles, what would you say?
So we've looked at 4,000 companies across this country, and we've been doing exit interviews with those companies for the last 4 years. And what we're finding is performance is directly connected to stress. And what we looked for is what's the cause of the stress. And whether we like it or not, unfortunately, leaders start most of the stress in an organization. So let me give you some things to think about just for a minute. Are you, for example, moved to yawn when you see somebody yawn? The answer is probably yes. So the problem that we have with stress in an organization is that it's infectious. It's as infectious as a yawn. It's called the stress contagion effect. And we have mirror neurons in our brain that pick up stress from other people. So the other thing that we found in our research is really important for your audience today, and that is that we did not find malice from leaders. Leaders weren't getting up each day and going, I'm going to stress out my organization. I'm going to make everybody stressed. In fact, the opposite is true for many of the leaders that we interviewed in this process. They think they're setting a high pace, a tone for their organization for good performance. So stress is asymptotic. In other words, leaders do not realize that they're doing this in many cases. So when you're sending an email or a text at 2 a.m. in the morning, you go back to sleep as a leader. What you don't realize is how that amplifies through the organization. And if that's a constant type of behavior that you have as a leader, your organizations are going to be inherently stressed out. The exit interviews that we did, Karin, were the most telling things that I've ever had in any research project in the past, where people, great employees, A players, were leaving organizations because of the daily stress caused by the leaders. And then when we went back to the leaders to find out if they were causing stress purposely, they were shocked by the data.
Such great questions. I have two more follow-up questions that just occurred to me. So one is, so what would you say for our friend here who is getting really stressed out by his boss? Any advice for managing himself?
To actually pause, whether it takes 5 seconds or 24 hours, as long as you have mental clarity before you're reacting and responding to others.
So it would really go from both perspectives, right? So if you're the one and the stress is coming at you,
yes,
pause before you react. And if you are the leader, pause and consider the impact that the way you're saying things, the urgency of how you're saying things could really be inducing stress.
The leaders start the process, but the people spread it.
Ah.
So the spreader. Stop it where it's at. Stop it with you. Go find out really what the context is potentially from the leader, and pause. And this permeates throughout the work environment. It's your life as well. So our research it's really coming to fruition here. Looking at people that have a self-discipline of pause are being much more effective leaders. And it's why we ultimately wrote the 24-hour rule. So just understand that it's infectious and it paralyzes performance if you're stressed out. You can't think straight. So it's time for us to take this head on.
Awesome. Charles, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Have a wonderful time in Breckenridge.
Thank you.